Hi friends, welcome back to another monthly wrap up. I know I'm a little bit late. Usually I do these right on the cusp of the new month, but we had a couple of films coming out last week, or I wanted to go see Scream for one, and then I saw The Pope's Exorcist, so it kind of lined up that way, so you're getting a little bit late, but I do have a trade-in for you. I got to finish Last of Us before I did this video, so I'm going to be able to talk about it today. I have been away. I know I've mentioned this time and time again, but I was away for, 3 weeks. And I just wanted to say on my Patreon, I did put up a whole little itinerary and tips and tricks if you're thinking about going to Japan. If you do want to check it out, it's just $2 a month and you'll be supporting my channel. But that video is a bonus for my supporters on Patreon if you want to check that out. I'll leave it linked down below in the description. Let's start off today with talking about TV shows because I've already teased it. Let's get straight in, and I want to talk about 2 TV shows that I watched last month in March. I keep forgetting what month it is already. I am very excited for both of these TV shows, and the first one was Swarm. I talked about Swarm in the What's Coming to VOD for last month, and wow, it was completely opposite of everything I thought it was, which is kind of fun when I put my predictions about what's coming up in those videos because I have no idea how it's going to turn out and what everyone else is going to think about things as well. But Swarm you can watch it on Amazon Prime. It is a very loose, it's a genre bending series for sure. It's very independent and it's doing its own thing. And if you've seen all the way to the end, you know that very well. It was created by Janine Neighbors and Donald Glover. It is a horror kind of comedy, satire comedy, reflection comedy on reality, and definitely a lot of drama aspects put in there. We follow Dre, who is obsessed with this pop star who, it is Beyonce. All clues point to Beyonce. A lot of things that happen follow some timelines and some actual events for Beyonce, and I thought it was going to be purely kind of like a stan film about stans, because it's called Swarm, which is kind of like the beehive and they're all the fans and how they react to her. And although it is about this kind of parasocial relationship with pop stars, it turns into something else, and it's really a true reflection on her and who Dre really is. And you follow, it's like a journey TV show, and it's so bingeable. I think I watched it in 2 days. The flow of it is just really interesting and something that was really unexpected. And also Billie Eilish is in it, and I really enjoyed her part, but there is no question Dominique Fishback, who plays Dre, is just phenomenal, and I just absolutely love her as this character. I can't even explain it. I don't think we've seen anyone quite like her in a TV show that we were able to follow for a length of time, I guess, and I just really enjoyed getting into a twisted mind, and it's just a very complicated character, and the places you go, the places you'll see. I know I'm being quite vague, but there's a lot of twists and turns, and if I had to give this miniseries, because it is only 7 episodes, a new blurb, I wouldn't say it's so much about a woman's obsession with a pop star, which is what the blurb says on IMDb, more so an antisocial person trying to outrun who they truly are. It is a ride, and I highly, highly recommend it. It is on Prime, especially if you like things a little bit different. And then of course, I watched The Last of Us. Everyone and their dog was telling me to watch this show. I did not play the video game. Of course, I know it's based on a video game, and I know it's a beloved video game. I think I have an unpopular opinion when it comes to this, and I've been a little bit scared to talk about it. I thought it was okay. I thought it's really well shot. The acting is phenomenal, don't get me wrong, but I guess I didn't have the connection a lot of people had to it with the video game. As much as I enjoyed it, I feel like TV shows like The Walking Dead have really damaged me in terms of allowing myself to connect to these kind of characters, because I know the stakes in these kinds of worlds. If you have not seen anything about The Last of Us, I'm sure you have. Otherwise, you've been living under a rock. But basically, it is based on a really popular video game that came out in 2013, I believe. The show has Pedro Pascal, who we love, and Bella Ramsey, and they're 2 people who, in a post-apocalyptic, I don't even know if we should use that term anymore, but in a world where there has been a virus outbreak, let's say that, it's very loose. I don't want to get into the details. You should watch the show. But they're kind of forced together to try and survive. That is the broad way of looking at it. And honestly, it is a very simple storyline, which makes sense when you think about it from a game point of view. It's a survival game, but it definitely tugs, or it aims to tug on your heartstrings and tells different stories about different people living in this world and how they connect to the main characters. I felt like there were a couple of plot holes, but I allowed them to go because the characters were so great. I really liked Ellie. I think that she was a really interesting character that we don't usually see as a protagonist, especially as a young girl, and I did enjoy their relationship. Of course I did. But I felt like I have a distance because I went through, if you don't know, if you haven't heard me talk about this before, I went through it with the whole Negan thing in The Walking Dead, and I am damaged. I don't know how we watched all of those episodes and watched Negan do what he did, and then people forgave him, and obviously I'm holding a grudge. And so now when I get transferred into like zombie apocalyptic, viral outbreak kind of things, and especially with everything that happened or is happening still in the world, I do hold myself at a distance, which is probably why it took me so long to watch it, although we wanted it all to be out to binge it. So I thought it was well done, but I was kind of surprised because I didn't think it would be as simple as it was, which sounds pretty silly, but I just heard so many people talking about it that I thought that there was going to be a big moment, and I didn't really feel that, but that might be because I'm like dead inside because of The Walking Dead. It's all The Walking Dead's fault is basically what I'm saying, to be completely honest with you. But I do want to give a tip to anyone who hasn't watched it. On IMDb, it says that there's 10 episodes. There's actually 9 episodes, and what they've put there is the first episode of the next season. And we got completely bamboozled by this because we were watching and we were making enough time each evening to get through a couple of episodes. And then it came to the end of episode 9, and it was just the end, even though we looked it up and there was 10 episodes. So anyway, just don't get fooled like I did. I thought The Last of Us was really well shot, really beautiful characters, but for me, I couldn't get too attached to this kind of atmosphere, this kind of storyline. I feel like we've done it, and it's kind of, yeah, it's just not for me, I guess, at this stage of my life. I don't want to revisit any zombie apocalyptic drama, okay? I'm done with that for a little while. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but I will watch season 2 when it comes out. I'm definitely keen to see what happens from now. Okay, those are the 2 major TV shows. Let's get into movies. So we're on Letterboxd, as I am every month. If you don't know Letterboxd, I always leave it linked down below. A lot of people ask what I'm using. I'm using the app called Letterboxd. So, Children of the Corn. I did a whole video on Children of the Corn, and I also did a separate video for my reaction. So if you do want to check that out, please do. I'm sure a lot of you have seen Children of the Corn by now. What did you think is my question? I was not a fan. But last month I was also doing a video about disturbing movies. I think it was psychological thrillers actually, which are kind of disturbing. And I mentioned Hard Candy in that video. And because I mentioned it, I made myself want to watch it again. I've watched this movie maybe 10 times. I don't know why. It just scratches a really disturbing itch for me. Hard Candy is about a young girl who is lured. God, this is all questionable. Lured into Patrick Wilson's clutches as a friendship online. And I don't know, if you haven't seen it, I don't want to ruin anything. That's why it's like really hard to talk about. But it is a phenomenal performance by Elliot Page and by Patrick Wilson, and it made me think about Patrick Wilson in a new way, for sure. If you haven't seen it, you need to check it out. It's one of my favorite psychological thrillers. I watched Spoonful of Sugar. This one was a new one that came out on Shudder last month. I was not a fan, but I got a lot of comments from you guys saying that you really liked this film, so maybe it was just me, but this was chaotic, and I do love my chaos, but not the chaotic that I, particularly vibe with. The film is about this mysterious woman who starts looking after this little boy who has all these issues, and then she has this kind of sexual repression that she's trying to come to terms with, and they take a lot of substances. I don't know how else to explain it. It is like this weird in-between of surrealism, but then it tries to get into the character's past and the damage that's been done. The blurb says that she was working on a thesis about children with severe allergies. That doesn't really come too much into it, but she's hired as a babysitter for little Johnny, a sickly, mute child who suffers from every allergy under the sun. And as soon as she discovers John's dark family secrets, things begin to become unhinged. I would disagree with that. She is unhinged, and it's very clear from the start. Let me know if you've seen it. I probably wouldn't recommend it to people, but if you're really into surrealism, check it out on Shudder. I watched Women Talking. You know what? Last month I finished Handmaid's Tale and then I went straight to the cinema and watched this. Why? I don't know. This film is very challenging, and it has an amazing cast. I thought that this film was set as like a period piece. Nada. It's like on a commune, like a cult commune, and here the women discover that they are being assaulted in the most graphic sense. I can't even explain it. This film was PG in Australia, which blew my mind because some of the language and what's inferred is totally just oh my God, I couldn't even. Anyway, so this is a discussion, women talking about with the women of the commune deciding whether they're going to stay or leave or put up a fight and what they're actually going to do. It is just a conversation, but it is very intense and it's just really, really hard to watch. It's a really, really, really hard watch. But I thought it was really well done. Yeah, and just made you question everything, to be honest. It stars Rooney Mara, Claire Foy, Jessie Buckley. Yeah, and it's a great cast and it's very unnerving. It's like one of those thrillers where everything is silent, but your heart is just like beating out of your chest the whole time. I watched Deadstream. I did this rewatch with my patrons. We watch movies together every month. I like this film a lot. It's so silly, but if you haven't checked it out, it's on Shudder, and I don't think you'll be sorry. You follow like kind of like a YouTube personality, and he goes as a live stream to a haunted house, and in there like it's just gets chaotic, but this time in the good sense. And it's kind of funny. There's a lot of special effects makeup, and it's like over the top practical effects, all that kind of stuff, practical effects, which is good. And yeah, it's just about his kind of the way the internet sees him and how he actually is, and everything coming out on the table. It's found footage, and it's a fun time. It's a really fun time. I do recommend watching that one on Shudder. I rewatched Megan, Uncut. A lot of people said, why don't you watch the uncut one and like do a video letting us know, compare the differences. It's like 2 minutes that are different. They were all talking about how it was going to be this big difference between the uncut version and everything they held back to try and get their PG rating. They got a PG rating for this, didn't they? That's so bizarre to think about. I'm a big Megan fan, by the way, if you didn't know. And yeah, they didn't really hold too much back. There was a couple of scenes that I can think of off the top of my head, but it isn't that different, but I enjoyed watching it again. A lot of people said it's not really worth watching again because there's not any differences, and obviously there wasn't enough for me to make a video about the differences, but I still enjoyed having an excuse to rewatch this film and rewatch the uncut one. I really enjoyed it. If you haven't seen Megan and you don't know what all the fuss is about, basically it's a Blumhouse production about this doll, this AI doll that is made to comfort someone dealing with grief. Obviously, it really wants to comfort her and protect her at all costs, which, you know, kind of goes against the purpose of it being built when it aims to exterminate others that are harming its owner. And what I love about it is it's actually quite deep because it goes into dealing with grief and loss and family and human connection, and I just wasn't expecting it. I don't know. I'm a big sucker for Megan, so I can't wait to see how many people dress as Megan for Halloween. I watched The Outwaters and I did a review on that. That's another little controversial nugget. Very long film, I thought. And very experimental. People are comparing it to Skinamarink because of its kind of silence. It takes you through a journey and most of it, no dialogue, and it has a big epic finish. Yeah, I have a whole review if you want to check that one out. We watched Mind Cage. This is one that I watched on the plane. And it is so bad. Oh my God, this was so sad because it has John Malkovich in it. I really want to tell you guys what happens in this film because it's so dumb. But anyway, I won't spoil it for you. I'm trying to find the blurb. Anyway, it's kind of like trying to be Silence of the Lambs for half of it, and then it takes a weird ass turn. I gave it a 1 star, which is lower than what I gave Avatar. It is, a detective movie where they're trying to find a killer, and they need the help of this guy called the Artist, which is John Malkovich, who is in jail because the murders seem very similar to like what he was doing, and so they need to like go into his mind and do a whole like Buffalo Bill, Hannibal Lecter thing, and try and massage him and become friends with him so he will help them out. And I can't even tell you how this film twists, and it makes absolutely no sense. Avoid at all costs, that's all I'll say. Encanto. I watched this one, I would say Encanto, but I looked up the pronunciation and some people say Encanto. Okay, whatever. This film... I have not seen this one, and it was a big one. I always knew about the Bruno song. It's a Disney family musical, and it's about a girl who lives with her family, but they all have powers and these distinct individual powers, but she doesn't. And yeah, it's based in Colombia, the mountains of Colombia, and it's just a cute little musical. And I enjoyed it for what it was. It was fun. It was a pick-me-up, especially before this one. I watched The Sun. This film inherently is not a bad thing. It means well. Hugh Jackman, Laura Dern, and Zen McGrath. And he is a boy who's dealing with mental illness, depression, and it's his parents. It's kind of like the parent point of view of them trying to figure out how to help him. And it is really hard to watch. It feels very out of touch. It feels like it's a conversation to parents to let them know about mental illness and how to communicate with their kids, which I'm all for, but it feels like it just misses the mark for me. I was screaming at the screen at some points. It was really hard to get through. I don't know if anyone else felt the same, but I felt like it really missed the mark for me. This interaction kills me. Bluke, if you're out there, I love you. The next film I watched was Silk Road. There was slim pickings on the TV of films in English. This is meant to be based on the Silk Road, tour, dark, deep web stuff. I've never been on there. No one can prove anything. And this is based on the guy who invented Silk Road, where you go online, going through the Tor browser to access illegal substances, whatever you have. And I think it's based on a book. It's the tracking him down, but it's also from his point of view. It's just disjointed. It kind of made no sense. The acting was just horrendous. And yeah, I just wouldn't recommend it. It just did not kind of come together as a film. It just felt like a couple of different scenes and just some really fluffy dialogue. And it's kind of sad because it's a really interesting subject matter. We then watched Dark Waters. This is, I would say, like a drama, but psychological kind of based. It is about a lawyer who usually works for the big companies. He's going against everything he's ever learned when he finds out that someone connected with his family is dealing with issues with their waterways, and he realizes that this problem could be causing an immense amount of pain for the public. It is a slow movie. It's quite long, 127 minutes. It is based on a true story, and I do like Mark Ruffalo, and it also has Anne Hathaway, but there is an issue towards the end of this film. It slowly lures you into its depths, even though it is kind of plain and a little bit boring in areas. I started getting really into the story, especially towards the end, and then it kind of has this abrupt change, and I felt like the payoff really didn't work for how long you were sticking with the film. So I'm not sure if I'd recommend this one. Let me know if you've checked it out, because I didn't really hear anyone talk about this one. I watched Wrath of Men. I cannot be judged for watching this. This is a Guy Ritchie film. It's not usually what I would... Look at you guys. You guys love this film. I mean, it's action. I gave it a 2.5, and I think most of that is, like, obviously based on personal score. I'm not really into this kind of film. But it's... What's his name? It's got Jason Statham and Josh Hartnett in it, which is very interesting. It's so weird, his name in this bit. But anyway, it's about a guy who gets enlisted in security, but he's mysterious and there's something else going on there. And yeah, It's a twisty turny ride with lots of gun and violence. Lots of gun in there. Yeah, it was fine. I'm sure if you like actions, you'll probably like that. I'm not the person who should be even talking about that, so sorry about that. I watched Babylon. Wow, no one told me that this film was what this film was. I was really surprised by this one. Very long film, and I wouldn't have watched this if I wasn't stuck on a plane. I would have watched it at the cinema, but I kind of missed that. And then, yeah, I was stuck on a plane. I was like, this is the perfect time. I love Margot Robbie. Who doesn't? And she's fantastic in this. But as much as I really wanted to absolutely love this film, it has moments of pure ecstasy and amazing scenarios coming together and everything interlocking, interwoven. I love those bits. And then there was just some really odd moments. I felt like I knew the direction of where they were trying to take us, the filmmakers, what they were trying to say, and then it completely turned on its head. And it ends in a very, like, just too intense. I can't explain it. Not in like an intense way, like it's disturbing and in your face. It just ends in this way that it feels very pretentious, and I didn't like that because I felt like this is a very long film and it was trying to make a statement throughout the whole thing. They didn't really have to not even double down, but triple down. Just keep explaining it to the audience at the very end. That's how I felt. I felt like the end like kind of ruined it for me. But it is a really interesting story about just a bunch of actresses and filmmakers who were popular during the silent era and how their careers were changed when it went into talking pictures and or sound. And it's really interesting. It's kind of funny and the start is really startling. They show all these epic parties with lots of substances, lots of crude scenes, and yeah, they weren't afraid to just go there. So I really enjoyed a lot of it, but then there was just some moments where it took me out. I'm like, it would have made such a bigger statement if it doesn't have to drill it home to the audience, because I think we all understand what it was trying to do. It's quite magical, so I do recommend checking this one out, but it is just a little bit heavy-handed for me at the end. I don't need so many films as well are being made about filmmaking and being in that process, and as much as it really does appeal to a lot of us who love film, and I've spent obviously a lot of my life dedicated to film. I went to like 2 different film schools. I have 2 different film degrees, and obviously the audience love film. That's why they're there to watch it. So I get that they're captivating their own audience and their own audience's love for film, but it does feel like there's so many movies that are about the filmmakers, and it just doesn't feel very relatable as a normal person. I don't know if anyone else feels the same. I'm sure everyone else feels complete opposite. I watched the score. This is really interesting. This is a musical-ish. I thought it was going to be a lot more intense, but it's kind of like this little story set in just a small space of time about people's lives who intertwine and a crime that is committed and the people involved. And it has like a musical number at the start and a couple throughout, but I thought it was going to be a lot more like that. It is okay, and I really liked what they were trying to achieve, but the story was a bit bland for me. And once you kind of understand the twist in it, there's not really much more, but it was interesting. I hadn't seen Will Poulter in anything else except for Midsummer, I think, and this. Maybe he was in something else as well, but I thought he was really cool in this, so that was a very interesting film. I'd love to hear if anyone else has seen that one. And then I watched Ready Player One, which I'd never seen. Lots of people told me to watch this because there is a lot of horror integrated. It's about like a VR, I'm sure everyone knows this, but it's about a VR world or like a, virtual reality world where a lot of people interacting within that, kind of like the metaverse. There is this competition, to put in plain verbiage, there's a competition, and whoever wins will be able to control this kind of world, and it means a lot to people, so they're trying to make sure someone who loves it and will appreciate it and will let it live on without advertisement will win. And yeah, you follow, it's Steven Spielberg, you follow this one character and his interactions with everyone else that he has met in this universe. I'm trying not to call it the metaverse. What I liked about this is the anonymous aspect and how he was friends with people and he had no idea what they looked like. I felt like that was really exciting from the start, and I really liked that idea. So there was a lot of this that I really liked. What I didn't love about this was the whole love interest aspect. I felt like this could have worked really well as a story about friendship, and friendship being not to do with where you are in the world or who you are, like what you look like, more like who you are, and not what status you held. And I just didn't like how there was like this strange, fast-paced love story in the middle of it. So, but other than that, I thought it was pretty good. I can see why everyone goes on about it. And then I finally watched a horror. I watched The Unseen, or Unseen, sorry, it's called. This film was definitely different to what I thought it was. Again, this is one that I mentioned at the start of the month. It follows a girl who has been kidnapped, and she just randomly gets in touch with this person who works at a service station. They have to work together because she can't see. She's had like her glasses knocked off and stuff. She needs to get help from this random person to try and find her way out. And it is kind of like the story of courage from this person who can't see where she's going, but the lady who works at the service station, her coming into her own and realizing what's important in life. It's a very touching film. I think I might have shed a tear. Don't tell anyone. Yeah, I thought it was really fast paced. It's really fun, and it's kind of laid back. It's not as intense as it sounds. It's a pretty like silly film, and I would recommend checking that one out if you have the time. I thought it was pretty solid. Not the greatest, but definitely worth a spin. So there you go. That's everything I watched last month in March. It actually was not that much, especially compared to what I normally watch. I normally watch double that in movies, and I definitely had a lot of misses. But let me know what you watched. I want to know what horrors have I been missing. I've been trying to catch up this month. At the end of this month, it's going to be a lot longer. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll talk to you all very soon for a very fun video. I can't wait. It's getting really exciting, guys. We're just around the corner. We have Beau is Afraid and Evil Dead Rise, and I'm very excited to talk about that with you. So if you're not subscribed, please do. I do new videos every single week talking about horror movies, talking about thrillers, and giving you recommendations of what to watch. I'll talk to you all very soon. Bye, friends.